Salawat. To start off our program, I would like to invite Zain Hassan to read Quran. Another loud salawat.
Salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا وجعلنا الليل والنهار آيتين فمحونا آية الليل وجعلنا آية النهار مبصرة لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا وكل إنسان ألزمناه طائره في عنقه ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا من اهتدى فإنما يهتدي لنفسه ومن ضل فإنما يضل عليها ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وما كنا معذبين حتى نبعث رسولا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما وليكم الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. I will now read the translation. Verily, this Quran does guide to that which is most right, and giveth the glad tidings to the believers who work deeds of righteousness, that they shall have a magnificent reward. And to those who believe not in the hereafter, that we have prepared for them a penalty grievous. The prayer that man should make for good, he makes for evil. For man is given to hasty deeds. We have made the night and the day as two of our signs. The sign of the night we obscured, while the sign of the day we have made to enlighten you, that you may seek bounty from your Lord, and that you may know the number and count of the years. All things have we explained in detail. Every man's fate we have fastened to his own neck. On the day of judgment we shall bring out for him a scroll, which he will see spread open. It will be said to him, read your own record. Sufficient is your own soul this day to make out an accountant against yourself. Who receives guidance receives it for his own benefit. Who goes astray does so to his own loss. No bearer of burdens can bear the burden of another, nor would we visit our wrath until we had sent a messenger to give warning. In the name of Allah, the All-Beneficent, the All-Merciful. Your real friends are no less than Allah, His Messenger, and the fellowship of believers, those who establish regular prayers and regular charity, and they bow down humbly in worship. Salawat.
Another loud salawat for that wonderful recitation. I would now like to call up Zain Muhammad for poetry. Another loud salawat.
Salawat. Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein, to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice until you are slain. The gate of the city of knowledge, Ali, he learned from Muhammad and showed how to be. He learned from Muhammad and showed how to be. He died protecting that knowledge, Hussein, so teachings of prophets would not go in vain. Oh come let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. When no one could answer the call of Nabi, the people would witness the sword of Ali. The people would witness the sword of Ali. And now like a mountain before tyranny, standing alone is the fearless Hussein. Oh come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. He gave his zakat in ruku of salat, for such is the bounty of Mushkil Kusha. For such is the bounty of Mushkil Kusha, and quenching the thirst of the army of her are sons of Ali and sons of Hussein. Oh come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. So patiently waited the chosen Wasi, to keep it united the community, to keep it united the community, with 72 sacrifices and more. Oh, what can we say of the sabr of Hussein? Oh, come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein. We can never be like Hussein or Ali, so this Ya Ilahi is then our plea. So this Ya Ilahi is then our plea. Grant us the footsteps of Kanbar Kumel, of Ibn Muzahir and John of Hussein. Oh come, let us learn how to live like Ali, to live like Ali and to die like Hussein, to live as a servant of Allah alone, to struggle for justice until you are slain. Salawat.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Please another loud salawat for the eloquent recitation. I would now like to call Sayyid Hujjatul Islam Maulana Hassan Abdi to recite the Mujaz.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، شفيع المذنبين وحبيب قلوب الصادقين، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, today is the third and the final majlis in remembrance of the martyrdom of our first Imam, the brother, the heir, and the successor of our Prophet, and the leader of the believers, the role model who taught the Muslim Ummah what was the deeper meaning of those teachings that Prophet Muhammad struggled so hard throughout his life to convey to people, and the standard of faith and belief. Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen wa Qa'id al-Ghurr al-Muhajjalin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu was-salam. These three titles, Amir al-Mu'mineen means that he is the one who has command over the believers. Imam al-Muttaqeen means that he is the leader of those who are pious. The nature of the authority of Imam Ali is an authority that is rooted in piety and purity and connection to Allah. It's not because that he inspires fear in the hearts of people. It's not because he can bribe people. It is unlike any other authority that exists in this world, which we are used to in our societies, whether a non-Muslim society or a Muslim society. Because generally, we follow or we obey somebody out of convention or out of tradition and habit, or out of fear, or out of a desire to gain something. That Imam Ali's authority is one that is rooted in taqwa. It is because he guides, and what you gain from following him is proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and acceptance in the divine company. That is Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen. And then the third title, وَقَائِدُ الْغُرِّ الْمُحَجَّلِينَ, those people who are marked with light and illumination on their foreheads and on their feet, meaning that they are symbolically marked with light by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the people who will enter into paradise. It is a kind of symbolic symbol and a reminder of the fact that the followers of Imam Ali, they are saved from the temptations of this world and from the punishment of the hereafter. These are three of the titles of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and they illustrate the nature of his authority and the nature of his leadership over the Muslim community. Two other titles of Imam Ali, which we might have heard, but we may not have heard as relating to Imam Ali. One is As-Siddiq, because he was the first one to accept and follow and verify the message of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi sallallahu alaihi. This is a title that belongs to Imam Ali. He is As-Siddiqul Akbar, the greatest of those who verify, because every prophet sent by Allah was given somebody who would support and who would assist that prophet in the carrying out of his task. The one most famous example is Prophet Musa alayhi salam, who was the prophet sent to Fir'aun and sent to guide the children of Israel. But he was given Prophet Harun alayhi salam as his assistant and as his support. So similarly, as our Prophet himself has said, Imam Ali was in the same position to him as Harun was to Musa. That is the job of as-Siddiq. The message of the Prophet. And nobody else is able to claim that they have that close relationship, not just to the person of the Prophet, but the religion of Islam itself. And then Al-Faruq al-Akbar, the greatest one who separates truth from falsehood. And this is also a title which in popular Muslim memory has been attributed to somebody else. But properly speaking, this title also is a title of Imam Ali, and this is something narrated by some of the companions of our Prophet, in particular among the Ansar. In a hadith from Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he said, "Ma kunna na'rifu al-munafiqina ala ahdi Rasulillah illa bi bughdihim Ali ibn Abi Talib." During the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa we didn't know who were the munafiqeen and who were the true believers. This is in the time of the Prophet, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa had a great deal of influence and popularity in the city of Madina. The people of Madina were not all believers, just like Mecca or Ta'if or the other cities and towns of Arabia. It had people who followed different religions. There was a large community of people who were polytheists, who were mushrik, like the people of Mecca were mushrik. They used to go to the Kaaba for Hajj, and they would show respect to the idols and perform those rituals that the mushrikeen, the idolaters, performed. There was a community of people in Medina who were followers of the Jewish faith. And there were three famous tribes, Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza. But there were other tribes and small clans as well in Medina who followed the Jewish faith. There may have been some Christians, although not as many and not as prominent. When our Prophet came to Medina, he came as the Prophet and as the guide of those who had accepted Islam, but they were very few. Just a few dozens initially. And he also came as a peacemaker and a mediator among the remaining people in Medina. So everybody showed a deference to the Prophet, even if they did not believe. Now, for those who were followers of the Jewish faith, they kept their own traditions and they followed their own law and their own practice. And their relationship to the Prophet was the relationship of one group to the representative or the leader of another group. But for the polytheists and for the Arab tribes of Aus and Khazraj, the Prophet ﷺ did not come as a representative of another group. Because at this time, the majority of the Muslims were from their tribes. They were few, but they were from their own tribes. And even those people who had not accepted Islam, they had friends or family members or people they knew who had accepted Islam, and many of them were considering it. And some of them, they may have come to the masjid to hear what was this commotion that had caused so much disagreement in Mecca, where the Muslims had to flee to Abyssinia and they had to then flee to Medina, and Quraysh were so angered by the message, and now it had come in their own midst. So some of them, they came out of curiosity or in order to learn. And so Islam was something which was in their own families, in their own neighborhoods, in their own community, and it was growing day by day, both among Aus and among Khazraj, the two main tribes of Medina, because some of their prominent leaders and their very respected people had accepted Islam. In this situation, some people, they found it convenient to accept Islam without actually believing in it. And it was often confusing for others to know that, can I trust this person? Are they truly a Muslim? Or are they just coming to the masjid, listening to the khutbah, joining even in the prayer or the worship because they're along for the ride? They're here because they're curious. They're here because they think this is a new group that is very close-knit, very loyal to one another, so there might be some personal benefit to me if I join this group. I might become part of that loyal, very close-knit, very well-bonded group of people. And how would they be able to tell who was sincere or who was not? This is the context in which you hear the hadith that مَا كُنَّا نَعْرِفُ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. The only way that we would be able to tell who is sincere and who is not sincere, إِلَّا بِبُغْضِهِمْ عَلِيَّ بْنَ أَبِي طَالِبٍ, except that they had an aversion and a hatred to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Why did they have an aversion to Imam Ali? Because he represented everything that was the essence of Islam. And most importantly, he represented the continuity of Islam after the Prophet. Now, for any other person, you can say that they followed the Prophet to the best of their ability or to the best of their knowledge or to the extent that they had the tawfiq and the grace from Allah to follow Islam, but not beyond that. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he followed Islam to the fullest extent. Not a single word that he said, not a single action that he did, not a single emotion that he showed. No part of his personality or no part of his life was separate for Islam for someone to say that I dislike Imam Ali because of this and not because of Islam. This, as I said yesterday, is one reason why Imam Ali is the standard of what faith is and what Islam is. But in addition to being the standard of Islam in his person, Imam Ali was the standard of Islam in terms of the continuity of the message. And this was another reason why people had an antagonism or an animosity to Imam Ali, because they were willing to spend a little time and say that we'll sacrifice some of our time and join the prayer. We will sacrifice for a little bit of time so that Medina can become the capital of Arabia, and then people will come and we will benefit from the political influence and from the trade and from the Prophet, and we will have a political power over society. It's okay if we sacrifice for a few years until Prophet Muhammad is doing his thing, and then we will benefit. But because of Imam Ali alayhi salam, it wasn't just going to be a few years of sacrifice while the Prophet preached his message and then they could do what they wanted afterwards. This message was going to have a guardian and an explainer and a leader, not just in the time of the Prophet, but after. And if anyone doubts whether it was clear to the people what the role of Imam Ali was, if anyone doubts whether the Prophet had explained who was to be his successor and what the role of that successor was to be, then the hatred that people had to Imam Ali is one of the best proofs that the Prophet had made it clear. And the people of Medina knew that Imam Ali is the one who is going to continue the legacy of the Prophet, and he is going to be the protector and the guardian of Islam. That is why if they did not feel the courage or the strength to be able to oppose the Prophet directly, all of their antagonism and their animosity was directed towards Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alayhi. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for people to say that the sign of a hypocrite in the time of the Prophet was hatred of Imam Ali. And this is not a Shia saying it. This is one of the companions, Jabir ibn Abdullah, was a member of the Ansar. And many other members of the Ansar, they said the same thing, that at that time we could tell that they were holding their tongue about the Quran. They were holding their tongue about Prophet Muhammad because they could not dare to say anything against the Prophet. They knew that they would be immediately called out and maybe even attacked by the loyal followers of the Prophet and the Muslims. They would not be able to say something against Islam or against the Prophet directly. But they directed their anger to Imam Ali. Imam Ali was a young man in his 20s. And he was known as not having any kind of particular wealth, unlike some of the others. He didn't always seek the limelight. He was one of the people that all of the Muslims counted on, and in particular our Prophet counted on whenever there was a difficulty or a need for protection or defense. So Imam Ali was there to sacrifice, to offer and to risk his life for the protection and for the defense of others. There is no other logical reason why people would show animosity to Imam Ali if it wasn't because of the role that he was going to play to Islam. Now maybe somebody will say, well, Imam Ali had caused the death of many of the unbelievers. He killed Amr ibn Abdul. He killed Marhab. He killed many of the members of Banu Umayyah in the battle of Badr. Maybe this was the reason why there was animosity. But remember, who is saying that this is the sign of the hypocrites? And where are they saying it? I gave you the context. Marhab was a member of the Jewish community of Khaybar. Amr ibn Abdul was in Mecca. In the 5th year of Hijrah, the battle of Khandaq, he was a member of the Qurayshi army that had come from Mecca. The members of Banu Umayyah, they were not munafiq, they were kafir, they were mushrik. It is a member of the Ansar who is saying that even among our community we had hypocrites, and their sign was that they hated Imam Ali. Imam Ali had not killed anybody from the Ansar. If anything, the people that he killed in battle were the enemies of the Ansar, who had attacked, who had besieged, who had harmed the Ansar, prevented them from doing Hajj and doing Umrah. So yes, there were the vendettas and the vengeance because of those battles in which Imam Ali defended Islam that some people had. But those were the vendettas of the mushrikeen and the kuffar in the time of the Prophet, who became munafiq later. They became munafiq when they superficially accepted Islam after the conquest of Mecca. The conquest of Mecca took place in the 8th year of Hijrah, just 2 years before the death of our Prophet. But in the lifetime of the Prophet, these people who hated Imam Ali and hated the Prophet, they fought the Prophet and they fought Islam tooth and nail, trying to suffocate this religion and end for them what was a nuisance once and for all. They were not munafiq. So when a member of the Ansar who lived in Madina, who were defended and protected and not attacked by Imam Ali, says that in our midst and in our community we knew who was a sincere Muslim and who was not, because the sincere Muslims loved Imam Ali and those who were not sincere Muslims hated Imam Ali. There is no logical reason for that animosity and for that hatred. if it weren't for the fact that they knew that Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi is establishing a foundation, and it is that firm foundation that Imam Ali is going to continue to build the edifice of Islam upon. As our Prophet himself said, Ya Ali satuqatilu ala ta'wil kama qataltu ala tanzil. Oh Ali, my struggle and my battle in life was to convey the message of Islam to people so they know what is the Quran and they can read and they can follow the superficial outward meaning of the Quran. And O Ali, after me, your struggle will be to fight and to defend the essence of the Quran. Ta'wil comes from the Arabic root ol, which means to return. And everything returns to its essence and to its true meaning. So ta'wil is not an interpretation, but it is the essence and the reality of the Quran that Imam Ali established and conveyed to people. This was the continuation of the message of our Prophet. It was the culmination of the struggle and the message of our Prophet himself. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, he represented for the Muslims from the time of the Prophet and afterwards the essence of the Islamic message. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And this is why his example is a shortcut for those of us who want to understand the Quran and understand the teachings of Islam. When I say shortcut, what I mean is that sometimes a complex issue can be very difficult for us to understand. And it can be overwhelming for us. How do I understand how these different verses of Quran fit together? There are verses that talk of mercy and forgiveness. There are verses that talk of warfare and punishment and retribution. There are verses that talk about mercy and verses that talk about justice. There are verses that mention so many different obligations that we have that it might not seem possible to understand and to apply all of those lessons in one life. The reality is that all of that complexity is bound by a very profound unity. There are not many different teachings of the Quran, each of them leading you in a different direction. But there is one central teaching of the Quran leading you to an inner consistency and an inner peace. And that is to be a servant of Allah and to wish to obey and to serve Him with every breath and every moment of our life. And the way to understand that thread that binds all of the different teachings of the Quran, all of those different pearls of wisdom, how do they tie together? That thread that ties all of those different teachings together in our mind and in our heart, and for us to understand, is to look at the lived practice of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam and the example set by Imam Ali alayhis salatu wassalam. That is why one of the titles of Ahlul Bayt is Hablullah, the rope of Allah. Because when you grasp onto it, then you are not going to be distracted in one direction or another, or confused about what is right or what is not. So Imam Ali, because he represents the essence of Islamic teachings, it is a shortcut for us to understand the essence of the Quran. The essence of the Quran is to look at the character of Imam Ali, the practice of Imam Ali, the words of Imam Ali, and to say, I want to be as similar to Imam Ali in my life as I am able to be. And if we have that picture, that image in our mind, then when we read the Quran, we will be able to get insight and a closer understanding of the meaning of the verses, rather than just read the text, but not really understand what direction the Quran wants us to take in our life. And this is why there is a hadith of our beloved Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa in which he says, Aliyun ma'al haqq, wal haqqu ma'a Ali. A dual relationship, a reciprocal relationship. Ali is with the truth, but the truth is also with Ali. Meaning, if you know what is true, then you will always find Imam Ali there. And in order to recognize Imam Ali, we have to begin with our own conscience. If I don't have a conscience, then I will never be able to have a loyalty to Ahlul Bayt. I will never be able to have an appreciation of Imam Ali and the sacrifices that he made in his life, because those were struggles for the sake of the human conscience, to awaken the human conscience and to give it life so that it can live for the hereafter and not for this world. I have to understand what is haqq in my limited understanding, that I, as a fallible human being who has many shortcomings and many mistakes, am able to understand. And then I will find that Imam Ali is there at that haqq. But then, if I limit myself that I'm only going to go as far as I understand, I'm not going to do anything that I don't understand, well then I will live at a limited level of insight and spiritual growth. My conscience is not meant to be a limitation on my spiritual journey. It is meant to be the initial motivation for me to embark on that spiritual journey. My conscience is there to lead me to my Creator, to lead me to the Prophet, to lead me to Ahlul Bayt. And then they take me by the hand and take me the rest of that journey that I cannot embark on my own knowledge and my own experience. So Aliyun ma'al haqq, Ali is with the truth. Find the truth and you will find Imam Ali there. But then when you find Imam Ali there, then take his guidance so that he can take you the rest of the distance that you cannot go on your own. Wal haqqu ma'a Ali. And the truth, it will go where Imam Ali goes. This is that part of the spiritual journey where we need to approach it through humility. That I cannot, with my own logic and my own experience, decide this is right and that is wrong. But rather I need the guide of somebody who has been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with infallibility and with illumination, so that they can show me how to be and how to live and how to think. And that is wal haqqu ma'a Ali. The truth, it follows Imam Ali where he goes. So become a devotee and a lover, and not just somebody who is observing. Allahumma adilil haqq haythuma dar. Oh Allah, make the truth go wherever Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam goes. And we see that this is the defining attribute of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, that they showed what is the balance of an Islamic life. Some people have this misconception that the best person and the best believer, alaykum salam, is somebody who is a moderate Muslim. Meaning you have religion, but you have a little bit of religion, and you also have a sense of humor. But the truth is that if you don't have a sense of humor, there is something deficient in your religion. Because having a sense of humor is one of the teachings of our religion. Some people say that you should be faithful, but you should also care about science and learning. That is not to balance your religiosity. If you don't care about learning and you don't care about the way the universe works, and you are not concerned about increasing your intellectual horizons, it's not that you are a very good believer but you don't care about science. There is something lacking in your belief, because recreation and your physical health and well-being, your exercise, your diet, your intellectual stimulation and learning, your sense of humor, all of those different parts of our existence, they are part of our Islamic teaching. Moderation comes not by adding something to Islam. Moderation comes from being a Muslim. The better Muslim you are, the more single-mindedly you devote yourself to Islam, the more well-rounded you will become. Because Islam encourages us to look after all of the faculties that Allah has given our soul and all of the needs that He has placed within us for our lives. Our physical, our emotional, our spiritual, our aesthetic, and all of the faculties and all of the needs that we have. Moderation does not come from religion, but moderation does not come by being moderate alongside your religiosity, but moderation comes within religion. Islam is what tells us to have moderation. And we should never interpret the life of Imam Ali as if it did not have moderation. Let me just give one example, which is the relationship of Imam Ali to this world or this dunya. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now you all know that Imam Ali lived a very simple life. He never had a full meal. He never had two things to eat at a single time, and all of those examples of the simplicity of his dress, his livelihood, his meals, we all know those examples. But Imam Ali taught moderation. He didn't teach an extreme or a harsh religion. In the one place, when people who followed Imam Ali said that we want to be like you, the Imam said, this is not your obligation. I am the Imam of the Muslims, and so I must live my life in a way such that if somebody is poor in Kufa or somebody is poor within the Muslim world, they don't think that Imam Ali is living better than I am. You have an obligation for your families. And if you try to live like me, you might alienate your own spouse. You might alienate your own children. You might alienate your own relatives, and you will not be able to invite them towards Islam. Don't do what I do, because my seerah is not the outward simplicity. My seerah is to do what is needed to set a good example for the Muslim world. I, as the Imam, need to set an example of simplicity. You, as my followers, need to set an example for your families and your society of what it means to be a believer. We need examples of how to be wealthy and be a believer, how to be a business owner and how to be a believer, just as much as we need examples of how to be poor and be faithful and trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same Imam Ali, who said that this world does not have any value in my eyes more than the sneeze of a goat. When a goat sneezes, the moisture that comes out of its mouth, it has no value. In fact, we find it disgusting. The same Imam Ali who said that the value of this world is no more than the bone of a pig in the hand of somebody with a terminal illness. Or we would say that you're going to try to get away from that najasa and from the contagion and not give any value to it. Imam Ali says the value of this world is less than that najis bone, that impure bone of a pig in the hand of somebody who is terminally ill and contagious, in the hand of a leper. The same Imam Ali who said that this world is no more valuable in my eyes than a leaf in the mouth of a locust that it eats for its sustenance. A leaf that an insect will eat. We don't even think of it as sustenance for ourselves because we can't eat it. It has no value for us. The same Imam Ali, when he heard people criticize this world, he said, don't criticize this world. Because it is in this world that those who earn the highest rank in the hereafter earn their rank. When somebody complained that this world had fooled them, Imam Ali said, مَا الدُّنْيَا غَرَّتْكَ وَلَكِنَّكَ اغْتَرَرْتَ بِهَا. This world did not fool you at all. You fooled yourself by means of the world. Imam Ali here is removing that hatred of this world that some people may have had, because his divorcing this world, his saying that it is not valuable, it wasn't out of hatred. It was out of a recognition that this world is not a goal for us to worship and serve and devote our energies and our lives to. But it is valuable because it is a preparation and it is the means to achieve the satisfaction and pleasure of Allah for the hereafter. So when somebody curses the world and says that this world has deceived me, Imam Ali says, مَا الدُّنْيَا غَرَّتْكَ. The world does not deceive you. وَلَكِنَّكَ اغْتَرَرْتَ بِهَا. You deceived yourself. You have been deceived by this world. And this is a principle of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. It's a very important lesson for all of us. We have a tendency to assign responsibility for our mistakes to others. My parents never taught me this. That person made me angry. I was frustrated. Traffic was bad. I had a rough day. That's why I am doing this. This principle that Imam Ali gives, it's mentioned by many other ahadith as well. Never say that this world deceived you. Never say that somebody else made you angry. Never say that somebody else caused you or gave you an excuse to do something wrong. Take responsibility, because whatever anyone else may do, you have willpower that has been given to you by Allah, and you decide how to respond. Sometimes when people came to our imams and they said, I trusted somebody and they broke my trust. I gave them a secret and they spread my secret. Or I trusted them with a valuable thing and they squandered that trust. The imams would say, never say, khananil amin. Lam yakhunka al-amin, bal i'tamanta al-kha'in. It isn't that a trusted person broke your trust, but rather you trusted somebody who was not worthy of that trust. Never say that a believer was not as honest with me as an unbeliever. Because if somebody is a believer, then they will be honest. But say, I thought somebody, I was fooled, and I thought that they were a believer, but they were not worthy of that trust. So this is how Imam Ali introduces balance into our religiosity by means of a deeper understanding of religion. You don't need to moderate your Islam in order to be able to live a well-rounded life. Imam Ali, who is known for his asceticism, he himself is teaching us that Islam means to be balanced and to be moderate. And in his last days, Imam Ali alayhi salam is preparing in this world for his journey to the hereafter. It was just 2 nights between the 19th of Ramadan and the 21st of Ramadan. Just 2 nights that Imam Ali was injured and that he bid farewell to his followers and his lovers. But Imam Ali did not waste even a moment of his life. Even those moments when his body had been injured, his head was bleeding, he had been poisoned and he was not able to stand. For those 2 nights, Imam Ali did not stand in prayer. He performed his prayers sitting down. But when he heard that his companions and his followers wanted to see him, he said to his family, "Give them a moment to come into my presence." And those loyal companions of Imam Ali, they came. It is said that one of those who came in was named Habib ibn Amr. He said that, "O Mawla, O my master, will you remove your band-aid from your head so I can look upon your injury?" The Imam had the turban that had been tied over his wound removed. And when Habib looked at it, he wanted to give some words of confidence. He said to Imam Ali that, "I don't see that the wound is very harsh. Inshallah, Allah will cure you." And Imam Ali said that, "O my companion, O Habib, I am not going to live for much longer. Bid farewell to me now, for before long I will just be a memory, and you will play my sermons and my voice in your head." Habib began to weep, and the other companions of the Imam gathered around. In a weak and faltering voice, Imam Ali said, "Saluni qabla an tafqiduni." The last time Imam Ali said those famous words were when his companions were gathered around him after he had been wounded. "Ask me before you will lose me." But then the Imam said, "But ask small questions that I can answer easily, because your Imam has been attacked and is not able to speak and give detailed answers. خَفِّفُوا سُؤَالَكُمْ لِمُصِيبَةِ إِمَامِكُمْ. Your Imam is in a musibah. He has suffered a grievous injury. He wishes to guide you even in this moment, but there are limits to how much he can say." History tells us that none of the companions dared to ask any questions of the Imam, but du'as and prayers for them. And then they bid farewell and gathered outside of the home of the Imam to hear what news would come of the Imam's injuries. There were those who were gathered and waiting outside the home of the Imam 24 hours a day until night fell after the 20th of Ramadan. And it was now the final hours of the Imam's life. And those who were with the Imam in that moment, his family members, they saw that the strength of the Imam was now leaving from his body. Sweat was coming like pearls on the forehead of the Imam, and he had stretched his legs out in the direction of the Qibla, and he had began to repeat, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allahumma barik li fil maut. Allahumma barik li fi liqa'ik." Oh Allah, give me blessings that I am now embarking on the journey to meet you. Give me blessings now that I am embarking on this journey of death. Surely we are God's and we return to God. And the family of the Prophet, they knew what these words meant. They knew that Imam Ali now is preparing for his final moments. A cry came out among the family members of the Prophet, and when the companions outside heard the family members of the Prophet crying, they also began to weep. Imam Ali heard the cries of his companions gathered outside of his home. He said to Imam Hassan, "Go and tell them to go back to their own homes. I don't want their sadness and their grief to cause pain to my daughter Zainab or my daughter Kulthum." Imam Hassan came out, gave the message of the Imam to his lovers. They dispersed and went to their homes, but there was one of the companions, Asbagh ibn Nubata, who stayed sitting. Imam Hassan came back in the home, and after a while he heard the sound of one elderly man crying. He came back out, he saw Asbagh ibn Nubata still sitting outside of the home of Imam Ali. He said, "O Asbagh, did I not tell you to go home? Did I not convey to you the message of your master and your Imam?" Asbagh said that, "O Imam Hassan, O the grandson of the Messenger of Allah, I heard your words and I tried to stand up, but my legs had no strength. My body said that you will not depart if you cannot once again lay eyes on your master." Imam Hassan saw the love and the sincerity in this companion of Imam Ali, and he began to weep. He said, "Let me go and see if my father gives you permission to come back." Imam Hassan came out after a few moments. He said, "O Asbagh, come." The family was gathered around Imam Ali. These were the final moments of the life of Imam Ali. Asbagh comes in and he begins to cry. Imam Ali says that, "O Asbagh, do not cry, for verily this is a journey that my beloved Muhammad Mustafa had told me about. I am embarking on the journey to paradise." And Asbagh said that, "Oh my master, I do not weep for you, for I know that you are going to paradise. But after you leave this world will become hell for us, because we will not have our Imam in our midst. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ." O Allah, accept this remembrance of Imam Ali alayhi salam on our behalf on this night of his martyrdom. Grant us to be loyal followers of his teachings and always walk on his path. Grant us to have the insight to know what pleases you and to avoid all which displeases you. O Allah, we ask you, keep us with Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad in this life and in the hereafter. And we ask you on this night, which is one of the nights of Qadr, which is the night of the martyrdom of Imam Ali, that, O Allah, make the fulfillment of our prayers to be the hastening of the appearance of our Imam and the establishment of truth and justice and Islam in every corner of the earth. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, in just a moment it will be time for Salatul Maghrib. Please make your way to the other hall for prayer. After prayer, gentlemen will come back in this hall for iftar. And after iftar, we will have a brief session of A'mal of Laylatul Qadr, following which there will be a majlis for the martyrdom of Imam Ali in the Urdu language.